Dr Hewson took advantage of his flight arrival at Newcastle Airport to conduct an early morning inspection tour of RAF Base Williamtown. The Ferrari fancier indulged in a fighter fantasy at the controls of an FA-18 Hornet.
It's designed beautifully for a pilot to fly.
Taking a nosedive, the Australian dollar gave the opposition leader more ammunition against the government when he touched down in the studios of radio station 2HD.
Right now there's a very real risk that this dollar fall will feed through into inflation and we'll have a rekindling of inflation.
Then it was back to the hustings, with the remainder of the morning spent pressing the flesh as Dr Hewson spread the word in person to the people of Maitland, the same old voters in the new electorate of Patterson, a seat the Liberals say their candidate Bob Roberts will win on a marginal swing. There was plenty of discussion about pensions, but hardly a word about the GST. Dr Hewson says a new information campaign has cleared up the confusion.
We're very encouraged, though, by the support it's getting and by the fact that they seem to be accepting what we're putting out as meeting their needs.
The Federal Coalition has labelled Patterson a winnable seat, and they've assured voters in the electorate that they'll be seeing more of Dr Hewson and other shadow ministers as the countdown to the federal election gets underway. Tom Hilston, NBN News.
"7:15, mayhem in the Darwin Street pits, riders working against the clock to make those final adjustments and repairs. Reigning Enduro champ Marco Rossi from Italy was first cab off the rank in front of a pack of international press photographers and cameramen. For others, the send-off was something of an anticlimax. From Cessnock's inner streets to the windswept vineyards. And the first of 3 special time trials on day 1. Every day a different course and a different set of time trials, or special tests as they call them. The secret course marked only by these tags. Once they left the vineyards, they ceased to be tourists, heading for the rugged Broken Back Range. And that terrain claimed its first victim. An American suffered serious head injuries after coming to grief on a disused rail line. He was rushed to Newcastle's John Hunter Hospital. Overnight rain did nothing to dampen the dust. Riders battling through tracks which were barely ruts. Provisional results have British rider Paul Edmondson on his Husqvarna 250 out in front. He posted a time of 2 minutes 5.25 seconds in the second special test. Shane Watts on a Suzuki 250 is the best placed of the Aussies at the moment, in the top 10 after clocking 2 minutes 9.73. Those results could well change as more times are posted. The Enduro continues tomorrow.
Bread burgers. We have a little meat patty or $4 something, but tea is not satisfying. Or it doesn't. The other one goes to the bottom. Finished on the TV the other day said, but a kilo of Vitabricks.
And it doesn't engage in any refers to. And it doesn't cost you a cent to be physically fit for your life.
Prior to 1984 and the dismissal of the council, Newcastle used to operate under a ward system. That was 4 separate areas, each controlled by individual aldermen. The administrator changed the system, leaving 12 people to represent the entire city. Alderman John Tate has been fighting to bring wards back.
The city area covers about 145,000, and it's just not possible for one person to cover that as well as a ward of about 30,000 people.
Public polls, government inquiries and pressure from within some sections of council has led to a change to the Local Government Act. At the next election, voters will vote for aldermen who will represent their specific ward or area.
If their ward alderman doesn't perform or achieve results, they know directly who to blame.
Lord Mayor John McNaughton has spoken out against wards in the past, arguing they create parochial regional views rather than a whole city outlook. But with the Act changed, the Lord Mayor says he's now happy to get on with the new approach. Supporters of the change say Newcastle is finally catching up. Lake Macquarie, Port Stephens, Maitland and Cessnock councils all have the ward system. Peter Ryan, NBN News.
Thousands of anglers flock to these areas every year. Whether they set up camp on the banks of farm dams or fish from runabouts, they all have a common goal. But this year, the time allowed to catch the prize Murray cod has been cut short, with a closed season enforced by the Fisheries Department.
The closed season will start on the 1st of September and last till the 30th of November. It's completely banning the taking of Murray cod in all waters in New South Wales.
Anyone catching a Murray cod is compelled to throw it back, an action that's upsetting anglers.
This is the Murray cod's spawning season, and it's to protect spawning fish. They get very aggressive while they are spawning and easy prey to some anglers.
This move is only one of various changes that will affect fishermen and women. Further moves to protect the fish stock will mean harsher regulations on bag size limits, equipment restrictions and a ban on the use of fin fish for live bait. The new laws will be introduced as they are approved by Parliament.
An historic meeting for the Prime Wheat Group today, moving into one of their biggest projects, the takeover of the old government-owned Grain Corporation. Farmers will have a share in the running and distribution of grain after it leaves the farm gate. Prime Wheat says the $90 million investment is a good one, and it's expected, apart from a name change, the old Grain Corp will remain basically the same.
We will expand the business part of the organisation, but it will be run by the same people, the same staff that are currently employed.
Prime Wheat has also put the boot in on the recommended funding cutbacks for Narrabri's I.A. Watson Wheat Research Centre. Cole Schwartz said it would be a great loss for the development of the industry.
So it really is a great institution, and to see it degraded as they intend, as I said, is ludicrous.
The president said he wants Saddam out, but not by dividing Iraq.
These actions are consistent with long-standing U.S. policy toward Iraq. We seek Iraq's compliance, not its partition.
Some say eliminating Saddam Hussein's control over the Shiites in southern Iraq could weaken his regime and encourage a military coup.
I don't think we'd be going in out of the goodness of our heart just to protect the Shia in southern Iraq if there was not also the goal of trying to bring Saddam down.
Pentagon sources say more than 60 Allied warplanes based in Saudi Arabia will patrol the skies over southern Iraq, assisted by reconnaissance aircraft. FA-18s from the carrier Independence, now in the Persian Gulf, will also be involved. Officials say any Iraqi military planes or helicopters violating the ban will be shot down without warning, while civilian aircraft will be escorted from the area.
These marsh Arabs are some of the 7 million Shiites scattered across southern Iraq who will come under the Allied air umbrella. Saddam Hussein has been publicly defiant about the Allies' no-fly zone, although there was no official government reaction here tonight. And on Baghdad's streets today, Iraqis were just as defiant. This man said it's colonialism all over again, the British, French and Americans trying to partition and divide Iraq. And weak as Iraq is militarily, Saddam Hussein can still bring pressure on the Allies. In the north, where the United Nations forces protect Iraqi Kurds, UN guards are particularly vulnerable. Today, Baghdad warned that if the Allies do attack in the new no-fly zone, UN guards will be expelled and relief efforts there are likely to collapse, putting the Kurds at risk again.
Elizabeth Heslop has been tumbling for 9 years. For the last 2 years, she's been the Australian champion.
It's an amazing feeling, just flying through the air at a fast speed. It's really good.
The Cardiff University student is now off to the world tumbling titles in Auckland, ready to wow the judges with whips, punches, rudies and full twists. It's Elizabeth's third Worlds, and while she's performed well in her age division, this time she's aiming to take on the Open champions.
I'd like to place in the finals in the Open. I've never placed in the finals before. That would be a real boost. That's what I'd really like to achieve. So I'll just see how I go.
It's been 10 years since the Bulldogs featured in the big one, but fans near and far are on the scent. One fella's come all the way from Melbourne to see Curry's semi-final surge. Last week, Curry put paid to South Newcastle's premiership aspirations. The Dogs stood up to everything the Lions threw at them and then turned it round, scoring 2 scintillating tries. Curry's pack laid the foundations for the 18-4 victory, some stern defence, keeping the Lions at bay. A similar effort tonight will go a long way towards securing that grand final appointment with Wests. Lakes were blitzed by the Rosellas early in last week's semi and never really recovered, going down 24-14. But the Seagulls have a solid pack to match Curry and pace out wide. The final kicks off at 8:30. Meanwhile, grand final action on the netball courts tomorrow afternoon. The rampaging Mary Ellen Macs taking on Howsat in A grade. Led by captain coach Cassie Mowbray, the Macs have been the dominant side in this year's competition. The big game starts at 2 o'clock at the National Park courts.
The former Liddell State mine east of Muswellbrook is the only Elcom mine to be privatised. Tenders have been called for the other 8 mines. When it was taken over by Cumnock Coal 10 months ago, the move incurred the wrath of the United Mineworkers Federation and the doubt of many. But the company has proven itself and in the process gained the respect of its 170 employees. The underground mine is now viable, with its production capacity doubled to around 2 million tonnes a year. Director Helen Dalton puts the success down to a plain change of attitude.
There's been a shift in the attitude of men. The most important factor is that people are recognised, and that we do recognise the abilities and the requirements and the safety of our men above every other factor is a facet of good management. And without good management, you don't get any coal.
Last month, the mine met its government responsibilities in supplying 1 million tonnes of coal to Bayswater and Liddell power stations. Another 300,000 tonnes will be exported to Japan, Korea and France. Cumnock has not only met its contract with the state government, but it's planning to expand. Behind me is the site of a new open cut mine, which comes online next week.
We've got an open cut starting next week to be followed. That will be about 1 million tonnes out of that, and to be followed early in 1993 by a larger open cut to the south of the highway on the other end of our lease, and we should get about 30, 40, 50 million tonnes out of that. So we're here for a long, long time.
Okay.
When last Canberra and Newcastle clashed, the Cannons came away with a win in overtime. That night, Canberra had to overcome Michael Johnson's outside shooting and the inside banging of Terry Dozier and Paul Kuiper. The difference between the two sides is Canberra's stingy defence, which allows it to slow the game down to its pace. At training today, the Cannons looked relaxed. By contrast, Newcastle coach Tom Wisman's brow seems to be permanently furrowed these days.
Yeah, we can't afford to drop any. If we're going to get to the playoffs, we have to win every ball game. We have to take them one at a time. We have the next 3 at home, one per week, so we can get focused. And at the moment, we're very focused on Canberra.
One thing to take heart from, Canberra's poor away record.
They haven't been a good road team.
The Falcons will again depend on perimeter players Everett Stevens, Al Green and Michael Johnson. Inside, once more, they'll look to Terry Dozier, who's just 30 points away from the 1,000 mark.
I think they're going to be a dangerous proposition tonight. Certainly they're a good basketball team, capable of winning, so it will be a game that we'll have to be at our best to win.
They'll tip off at 8:35. Anthony Griffiths, NBN News.
.8 kilometres was the task on day 4 of the Enduro, a mixture of tests over a designated course and another blast through the bush, really putting man and machines to the ultimate test. This morning's conditions were as they had been in the past 3 days, and riders were looking for relief.
The polvere, tough, dusty.
You'd like some more rain?
It's better. A little rain, no dusty.
The race is quite hard. It's dusty and bumpy, so it's not easy race.
Passeri on 25 and Nilsson on 26 have had a tremendous battle so far, and today they were again on top of their form, both aware of each other and praying for a trouble-free run. The Enduro has already claimed 40 riders, either through injury or mechanical problems, and for the Australians, some bad luck. Lying fourth in the team trophy, Peter Buckley struck gearbox dramas, dropping 46 minutes and pushing the locals back down the list. No such worries for Great Britain's Paul Edmondson.
It's quite dusty and the tracks are very rocky and very narrow. It's better for me today really, but you know, still a lot can happen, so but the track's good today, I'm enjoying it.
In the highly competitive 250cc class, Edmondson and Joachim Hedendal of Sweden are leading, with Paolo Pellegara closing in. Aussie Shane Watts is just behind in 5th.
Yeah, I was hoping to be a bit higher actually, but I had a few crashes on the first 2 days and it slowed me down a bit, but yesterday I think I went pretty good. I didn't lose any time to them, so it was good. Hopefully they can have a few crashes and we'll catch back up to them.
Giovanni Sali of Italy is a clear-cut leader in the 500cc division, and he has a handy break over Sven-Erik Johnson of Sweden and Rodney Smith of the USA. Sweden has taken the lead from Italy, with other teams starting to encounter big problems in their race for the trophy, and Mother Nature tomorrow could play a very big part. The 67th IDSE will be remembered as the friendly Enduro. 12 time checks and 4 special sections made up the penultimate day of competition, with the weekend in the wineries bringing out the spectators in droves. No time for the riders to sample the Hunters Fair. There's gold medals to be won. And in the 80cc division, Pierfranco Maraglia of Italy surged to the front with a commanding performance, relegating overnight leader Marco Robel of Poland in third. Gianmarco Rossi of Italy has forced his way into second and is right in gold medal territory. In the 500cc division, Giovanni Sala of Italy has a very slender lead over Sven-Erik Johnson of Sweden, and pushing those two riders is Rodney Smith of the United States. The 125cc's is still a giant battle between the little men. Jeff Nilsson of Sweden has a 54-point lead over his great rival Stefano Pesira of Italy, and Nilsson looks set for victory. Aussie Brett Smith has lost all chance and is way down the pack. And for some, it's more a case of have some fun. Just to finish will be a bonus. Joachim Hedendal of Sweden on 74 will have to maintain his form to outlast the legend Great Britain's Paul Edmondson on 77 in the 250cc division. Only 28 points separates the two. And Aussie Shane Watts has ridden brilliantly to climb into fifth spot, only a touch away from the leaders. Off the road and back into the bush, and Jimmy Eriksson of Sweden and Italy's Fabio Confalonieri on 114 and 113 respectively are locked in the lead of the 500cc's with Mario Rinaldi. And in the over 500 four-stroke bracket, another Italian, Fabio Fabioli, has dropped less than a point in a near faultless display to be ahead of Sweden's Billy Anderson on 141 and Czech Martin Kreml. Jeff Ballard of Australia is fourth on 135 and just out of the top group. Overall, Sweden lead from Italy and Spain, Australia in 10th.
This is the new secondary treatment plant at Burwood Beach. It purifies the effluent before it goes out to sea. The sludge, which is a byproduct of the system, is then put into mine workings under the city. By opening a secondary treatment plant, the Hunter Water Corporation says Newcastle's beaches will be even cleaner. However, it's this new process which is causing a foul smell in the local area.
It's just unpleasant, and you just don't open the door. You don't go outside, you stay on the other side of the house.
Paul Broad says there's no smell from the sludge going into the mines under Newcastle. Rather, it occurs while the sewage is being broken down at the Burwood Beach plant.
The process itself hasn't bedded in as well as we would like, and it's produced a scum, and that scum producing more odours than we would normally expect from a treatment plant.
Paul Broad has asked the public to notify the Hunter Water Corporation when they notice the smell. Jane Anderson, NBN News.
And it was the Falcons who again got away to a flying start, leading by a point at quarter time, 2 points at half-time, but trailing by a point at the last change. Terry Dozier was inspirational, and at the other end, Jason Reese was awesome. For Dozier, a milestone, 1,000 National Basketball League points. He brought that up in the fourth quarter, and the Falcons looked set for a win. With time running out and the Falcons in front, a dubious call sent Reese to the line, and the Callans led. Green was fouled and made the shot to tie it 91 all, and drama unfolded again. With 1.3 seconds left, Canberra couldn't level and overtime was called. From then on, it was all one-way traffic, and the Cannons ended any hope that the Falcons had of making this year's playoffs while staying in contention themselves. Six to 1, 25 to 1 and 25 to 1, the unplaced favourite at 9 to 2, Prince Salieri, and the trifecta a beauty. At Rosehill, it was the Tooheys Draft Premier's Cup over 1,900 metres. $20 to 1, 7 to 4 and favourite, and 10 to 1. And for the 7th was the Open Handicap. The numbers you needed, 3, 5 and 10, and the trifecta, 1,327.20.
No, they're not going troppo at the Banana Festival in Murwillumbah. This is the banana lovers' equivalent of an Ironman. 20 minutes of hell hauling 50-kilo bags of fertiliser and bunches of that delicious fruit. It's enough to make you do your nana, but the 5 teams all from the Tweed Valley kept their heads. And the official banana man, well, it was so close, they all shared the title.
Freckled ducks usually live inland in the Murray-Darling Basin. During drought conditions, they've traditionally sought refuge in coastal wetlands. Man has destroyed so much of its natural habitat that the freckled duck population is now endangered. In an attempt to boost their numbers, a breeding program will be established at Newcastle's Wetland Centre.
The freckled duck's considered in the top 10 of the rarest waterfowl in the world, and it is the rarest duck in Australia, so I think it's important to try and maintain populations of birds within Australia.
The challenge had originally been taken up by the CSIRO in Canberra. However, when funding for the project dried up, the Wetland Centre agreed to take over the work. BHP has contributed about $14,000 to the program. Work on a structure to accommodate the ducks should be completed within 6 weeks. The birds will then be bred in captivity, their offspring later released into the wild, boosting the freckled duck population on the New South Wales coast. Jane Anderson, NBN News.
Lismore's #1 team went through the 2 rounds of the State League competition undefeated. Here, Lismore in the white beat Brunswick Byron for a berth in the grand final. Brunswick had a second bite of the cherry, but fell to Ballina's #1 side. Strong wind swept across the Macney court, so it wasn't all easy going in the final, but Lismore was not to be denied. Ballina beaten comprehensively, 29-14. Player of the series, Brunswick Byron's goal defence, Tamara Hosking.
Police say the 2 men from Sydney were travelling south along the New England Highway, 15 kilometres north of Armidale, when they attempted to overtake a vehicle on a right-hand bend. The driver lost control in the wet conditions, spinning the sedan into a tree. Rescue services managed to free the occupants, transporting them to the Armidale and New England Hospital, where they remain in a satisfactory condition. The incident is the second serious accident in the area in recent months. Police say both the driver and the passenger of today's mishap are lucky to have escaped without further serious injury.
In the recent federal budget, Treasurer John Dawkins announced that $350 million would be given to councils in areas that have experienced above average levels of unemployment. As a result, Newcastle Council received about $4.9 million. Lake Macquarie was given $5.8 and Maitland received $1.3 million. The money is to be used for projects that are both labour intensive and important for the development of the region. Newcastle will spend the money on refurbishing King Street parking station, building a number of amenities and enclosures for wildlife at Blackbutt Reserve. But not everyone agrees with the decision to spend money on Blackbutt Reserve. Alderman John Sutton believes other projects in Newcastle should have been given a higher priority.
I think $900,000, nearly $1 million, which is 20% of the budget allocation to Newcastle Council from the job creation schemes in the federal budget, is just something that is not reflecting the true priorities of the city. I think we've got so many other social and environmental needs that have a much greater priority that we should be looking at those.
However, Lord Mayor Alderman John McNaughton defended Council's decision. Newcastle City Council will tonight discuss other projects which haven't been finalised yet. Lake Macquarie and Maitland councils have chosen their projects. Lake Macquarie will build cycleways, footpaths and upgrade roads and park facilities. Maitland's list also includes footpaths, drainage works and improvements to parks. Each council's proposal will be considered by a state advisory committee before they're given the green light. Jane Anderson, NBN News.
As the research continues and discoveries are made, employment in the biosciences grows. The Open Day at Armidale's TAFE College featured equipment used in the field. Teachers explained and encouraged students to enrol in the course.
We have targeted the biological sciences area, purely and simply because in biological sciences there are a lot of employment opportunities for people.
That's not the only subject offered in Armidale. Displays on fashion designing, craft and welding were also included. College Principal John Gabb believes TAFE is a vital part of the community.
I consider TAFE plays a very important role in the community because TAFE gives people an opportunity to be able to gain skills, to go out there and gain jobs, to retrain, and for those people who find themselves out of work through no fault of their own, they can come back, do another program and start another career.
The New South Wales Coal Association says State Rail isn't doing an efficient job in hauling the Hunter, charging twice the rate of equivalent runs in the United States. The government is looking to revamp the system from Gunnedah to Newcastle, but opposition leader Bob Carr says it's a push for privatisation of the line, threatening 1,000 jobs. The unions say it's a government fire sale.
I think it's just, again, this mentality of this New South Wales government is get the quick buck at all costs, sell off what they can, sell off your banks, sell off your insurance companies, sell everything off.
State Rail has spent $1,000 million on the line and estimates it owns $1,500 million worth of assets. By anyone's standards, it's big money. Could private enterprise do a better job than what you're doing now?
Well, I said that's a matter for rich debate. We are world class and we're going to continue to be that way.
The Coal Association says privatisation of the line is unlikely. A probable scenario is coal companies buying the rolling stock and leasing the line. Any changes are expected to take at least a year to finalise. Peter Ryan, NBN News.